Hi, in this video, we're going to take a look at CISCA, the Commercial Installation Solutions System Calculator. Basically, this program is going to let you put in room dimensions and calculate the SPL across your area so that you can then give that report to a customer or just double check yourself. It's quite a simple program to use. We're not going to cover all the features, but we're going to show you enough to get you going so that you'll be able to create some professional designs. So a couple of things to note before we dive in is that it is a downloadable program from Yamaha website and it's only for Windows PC. So when we first open up CISCA, you get presented with this welcome screen, and you can either start a new project, you can open an existing project, or we can jump into options. So let's start with a new project. So we're going to give it a project name. So we're going to call this Conference Room A. We can put any notes about this room in here. Then we have this mode up here, auto or advanced. I don't think auto is that great. I think it's a little bit simple. So I always use advanced. So we're going to start with advanced. Okay, so in this screen, this is where we start to put all our information in. On the left hand side, we can see all the steps that we're going to cover. So there's 6 steps. Then we've got the room information. So X, how wide is the room? We're going to say that our room is 10 meters wide. And our depth, Y, I'm going to say 30 meters. Z, which is the height of the ceiling, I'm going to make that 3 meters. And E, which is the height of the person's ears. So we could, most of the time we use either 1.2 or 1.5, depending on if people are seated or standing. So we'll assume 1.2 for seated positions in this case. If I want to, I can import a background image. I never bother. And any other notes. So I'm happy with that, so we'll hit next and move on. Now this is where we start to choose our speakers. And you need to have a little bit of knowledge about speakers at this point. Hitting this little drop down will give us a range of speakers that are available from the Yamaha catalogue. I happen to like the VXC 6s, so I'm going to choose that. Over here we get on the right we get a picture of it. We can scroll through and it gives us some other pictures. So these ones come in black or white, the tap values and so on, as well as the specs of them down the bottom, which we can choose whether we're going to run them at high impedance or low impedance. In this case, I know I'm going to run at high impedance. I can add some surface mount speakers if I want to. I'm not going to in our example. We're going to keep it relatively simple. And same with subwoofers. So again, we won't add any, but the option is there if you want to. So we hit next to go to the next bit. Okay, application. This is where we're going to set our target SPLs. So we hit the drop down. If you were doing, say, a shop or something like that, you might want these BGMs, background music levels. In our case, we're going for foreground speech. So we're going to hit up this one, FGM speech 85 dB. So we're aiming for 85 dB across the board. Hit next to go to the next screen. Density. Okay, so this is where we start to set up our speaker patterns that we want to install. Depending on how even you want the coverage across the space, or whether there is a budgetary constraint, you could put in, say, 2 times edge to edge. If it was a really budget conscious place, or it was it didn't really matter to them about the sound levels. In our case, we're going to go minimum overlap. So here we want, because we are going to have conferences, we want to make sure that the speaker can be heard at all places. So I'm going to choose minimum overlap. We have some options up here which will become active if you have surface mount or subwoofers installed. I'm not doing that. And we're just going to stick with a basic square pattern. Go to the next screen. Okay, so this shows us our speakers over here, and we can start to make small adjustments if we need to. So if we know, for example, that there are some poles in the way, or the projector or something like that, and we can't put speakers in particular places, we can actually remove them or move them. So we select ceiling speaker because that's the one we want to access. In our case, we want to delete some because there's a pole perhaps in the way, so we select delete. Now that that's highlighted, I can click on a speaker and it will delete the speaker. And this one too. And perhaps we've got something in the roof here and we can't put one there. So once I've done all that, I can hit display and it's going to give us our SPL levels. So under sound pressure, on the left hand side of the screen, we're using ceiling speakers, VXC6s times 72. We look at the frequency in terms of what it's measuring. Overall A-weighted is generally fine. The tappings of the speakers, and again, we would have more options here if we had surface mount or subwoofers. It's looking pretty red over here. And if we have a look, our arrow is up at 91 and our target is 85. So here we can see that 100% of the area is going to be over 91. And in actual fact, it's going to be 99. When we look down here, we can see the result and the target. Our result is 99.1, target's 85. So that's pretty high. So let's jump back over here to the left. And we've got 60 watt tappings, but we can actually tap down to 15 watts on this particular speaker. So let's do that. And we'll see when I click it that the chart will change. Okay. So we've now got 85 to 91 across 81% of the room. Target was 85, we're getting 93, so we're still pretty high. It means we can tap it down a bit more. If I'm not happy with that, I can jump back in here over on the left. I can change my speaker type. I can change my settings. So here, for example, right, we may say, well, that's pretty good, so let's go edge to edge. We'll next and display it now. And now we're getting 44 speakers over here on the left, 15 watts. And we're getting a result of 91 with our target of 85. So I'm pretty happy with that. That's come out pretty well. So let's save our project by clicking Save As and go through the standard settings that you would do. Once we've done that, we can hit Report. And it's going to generate our report for us. We can choose whether we want PDF or JPEG. I generally use PDF. And what I will normally do is not do all of the heat maps. I'll just do the main overall weighted heat map and hit Report. Right, so we've got our report all done now for our customer. So we can see the project name, the application of the target. We've got how many speakers we need and what tap value they need. density and spacing. Then we scroll down and we've got the layout of the room. And over on page 2, we have our SPL ratings. So you can confidently send that off to the customer and say, yes, we're going to hit our target. In fact, we're going to be just above. So we can run our amplifiers potentially a little bit lower. So hopefully that's given you a bit of an introduction to CISCA and how it could be of benefit to you. If you've got any questions, please drop them into the comments and I will try and get back to you. See you later.